Putin hasn't had any wish for any kind of peace. He just wants to conquer Ukraine. And the previous ceasefires that we have had, Russia did not keep them. They just need the ceasefire to regroup and rearm and come back stronger. So I think it's important that this peace will also be sustainable. And there it is also important that both America but also Europe support Ukraine because the stronger they are on the battlefield, the stronger they are behind the negotiation table.
And what are the ingredients to a sustainable peace in Ukraine? Is it full NATO membership? Is it some sort of NATO light? What do you think is necessary in order to preserve that peace if you do get an agreement?
It is necessary that there are security guarantees that really work. So that Putin does not take any other steps. I mean, I really like what historians have said, that in order for a country to become better, it has to lose its last colonial war. So Russia hasn't lost its last colonial war, and it's up to us to make sure that it does this time. What we have to do is put the political, economical pressure on Russia. We have a lot of economic might on our side. What we also have to do is support Ukraine militarily so that they can defend themselves.
And on the question of maximizing pressure from the EU, there are a few levers that still have not been pulled by the EU or can still be pulled, and I'd like to get your appraisal of three of them. One is reducing the oil price cap for Russian crude oil. The second is potentially banning LNG coming from Russia into Europe. And the third is the underlying Russian frozen assets. Where do you see, is there a possibility to make movement on any of those three?
Oil price cap. I have been advocating for this when I was Prime Minister of Estonia, and I'm really pushing for this to be lowered because it has a clear effect. What we see on Russia's side, I mean, they are struggling because their national fund is depleted and they don't get the same revenues that they did from oil and gas. But there's still room that we can use, and definitely the countries need to discuss that. What comes to sanctions, then we are constantly working on new sanctions packages. Of course, we have 27 countries. That means that we all have to agree what we do in this. But we're constantly coming up with new ideas and working on this. On frozen assets, this is something that we have in our hands, and we clearly need to see what kind of next steps we can do. Using the revenues from the frozen assets is a first step, and we need to really discuss what we can do further. Of course, there are also sensitivities on the member state side, but I think it is important to think how we can really help Ukraine in this respect, because it's not right that our taxpayers are paying for the damage that we haven't caused.
And one of the ways to help Ukraine, of course, is to strengthen European defense. This is one of the main topics I think that you've been advocating for a very long time, and I think very present in the minds of many people now. We heard from Rutte yesterday saying 2% is not going to cut it. We know Trump wants 5% in terms of NATO defense spend. Is there a conversation coalescing about how to pay for this at the EU level? Is there a conversation coalescing? We have Finland, for example, traditionally frugal, saying maybe there's some wiggle room. Same thing from the Danes. Do you think there will be joint debt issued in this commission period in order to finance defense for Europe?
These are the discussions that we need to have, because we have a clear crisis right now that needs more spending in defense. And of course it requires some very difficult decisions from the leaders of Europe to make. So, defense spending, I wouldn't be stuck in the numbers, but the capabilities that we need and what we can do together. If we do these things together, it's also wiser and more cheaper for everybody if we also raise capital together.